Welcome to Jack Talk. I'm Luke Hamilton. Today we have a very exciting show for you on this episode. We're going to take a look at the Baptist Student Ministry here on SFA's campus to find out more about how they spent their spring break helping others. Then we'll get a chance to talk to Mary Frances Bradford, the lay leader at First United Methodist Church, about the upcoming 50th anniversary celebration of the church's sanctuary. And to wrap it all up, you'll get an inside look with two local coffee shops here in Nacogdoches to find out how exactly coffee is roasted. You won't want to miss out, so don't go anywhere because another episode of Jack Talk starts right now. March 16th through the 23rd was SFA's spring break for students and faculty. However, the Baptist Student Ministry here at SFA did more than just take time off of school. Joining me today is Cameron Hinson, one of the BSM student leaders. Cameron, it's great to have you here in the studio with us today.
Thanks
Appreciate you coming out. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about the BSM here on campus and your role that plays a part of it.
So the BSM is a student organization, and our main focus is kind of just get people connected with local churches, help them grow in their faith with the Lord, and just kind of like give them a sense of a foundation, more or less, and get them just connected and give them a good community to be in.
Now the BSM, they have trips like this a lot. Especially during the school year, giving people opportunities to go out and outreach into the community. And South Padre, it's a popular location for spring break, but you guys were a little bit different in your approach. Go ahead and tell us about Beach Reach.
So Beach Reach is a mission trip that's been going on since, I think it was 1980. So it's been going on about 40 years. And our main focus is to go down there and we give free van rides and we give pancakes and to the local college kids there that are partying and things like that. And the main thing is we conversate with them and give them, like, make sure they're safe and things like that, and we share the gospel with them. And during that process, if they're willing to hear, and we just conversate with them and relate to them and love on them.
And so these vans, you were telling me a little bit about the vans. You guys name each van a different name. What went into to play into those van names?
There's a lot that would go into those van names, honestly. It was really crazy. Like, we had one that was called Vansectomy. We had Free Vandy. We had Your Mom's Van.
Right.
Pro Vanity, Gosh Van, and those are just SFA's vans alone. We like to push the limits sometimes with the van names, and so it's a great way to just kind of keep things fun, interactive, people on their toes kind of thing, you know, and just like make it seem more appealing than just a basic, just random creepy white van rolling around somewhere.
Right. So go ahead and take us through a typical day. You guys take these vans out on the South Padre, and kind of how do you approach each day?
So the way we go about it each day is we'll start the day off at 9 o'clock is when our shifts start, and we'll go till 3 a.m. usually. But during the middle of the day, we'll go and we'll debrief, we'll have breakfast, we'll have lunch, things like that. We'll hang out, kind of have community with each other, and then we'll go out and do what we call fishing, where we'll go on the island and we'll go around and say like, hey, do y'all need a ride? And we'll take them wherever they need to go and things like that. And then near the end of the day, we have worship and right after dinner, and then we go on our shift. After we get our assignments, like if you're on the vans, or if you're on the ground at Louis, which is one of the main bars there.
Okay.
And so you start that, and then the shift starts, and typical days, if you're on the vans, usually they're half the night till about midnight, and you just conversate with people as they get on the vans, and you'll drive on, like at the beginning of the night, say, hey, do you need a ride? And you'll take them wherever they need to go, and things like that, and then you're about 11:30, 12 o'clock is usually when you go through Louis's line where people are waiting to get free van rides to where they need to go back to their hotel or another bar or say like another party, things like that. And typically you just kind of work with them and talk with them and just kind of give them more
right. And
love on them.
What's those experiences like when you have people in the van? What is a typical experience like with these people?
A typical experience is usually predominantly people are pretty gone, pretty out of it. But you do have some where they're pretty sober, or they sober up during the van ride. And usually, a typical conversation, you talk about more common things like, hey, where are you from? What's your major? Basic get to know you questions as a college student. And you just kind of go off of that. But eventually the conversation will get a little deeper into that, and then more gospel-centered, more real-life centered, talking about like how's life for them, kind of thing.
Okay. And as we talk about, a lot of Greek life comes out to South Padre, a lot of people your age. So is it really easy to relate to people while you're in the van, regardless of their mental state at the time, you could say?
Usually it is, for me especially, because that was something that I used to do a lot whenever I was more in high school, so I can kind of relate and see where they're coming from their aspect, but it's looking at it from a whole nother point of view.
Okay.
Like, it's like the other side of the fence is how I'm looking at it now. But it's usually pretty easy to communicate with them and relate to them, because you're like, oh, you're in college and you talk about a major, and eventually you'll find someone that's the same major as you, so you can just conversate all night about that. So for me, it's usually pretty easy.
And from your perspective, what would you say stood out about this experience more than another experience? Obviously, it's a relatively unique experience going out and talking to people like this in a mission.
For me, so this is my third time going, and just every time the Lord teaches me something new. There's something just new about it entirely. And I don't know, it's so much different, because you're seeing people when they're just letting go of like everything. Like, usually you'll have people partying here on campus and things like that, and like during the school year and semesters, but down there it's like a whole nother beast. It's like that on like steroids pretty much. Like, it's crazy, but you're able to just kind of just care from and love on them more than you would be able to here. And people, in what I've noticed, are more vulnerable and more willing to talk when they have a little bit of alcohol in their system.
Right, okay. And these are long hours that you talked about. You guys wake up, you start the day rolling, and the day doesn't end for a while. So kind of what is it like going out there and just on the grind all day long?
It's exhausting, but it's amazing at the same time. It's just, I don't know, it's really crazy to think about, because going on it, it's just, like I said, it's exhausting, but it's so much fun, because for some reason you hit a peak where you just have so much energy, and it's just like you hit your second wind, like when you're like jogging, you hit that runner's high.
Right. It's
like you're hitting that, and it's just going.
You've got the mission, and you're there all day to solve it. Okay. Yeah, Cameron, we really appreciate you coming in and talking to us about Beach Reach. It was exciting to hear all about it. You can find out more about SFA's Baptist Student Ministry on their website. Go to www.sfabsm.org. Don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we are going to take a look at an upcoming celebration at First United Methodist Church that will make history. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Jack Talk. History is about to be made right here in Nacogdoches. On April 7th, First United Methodist Church will be celebrating their sanctuary's 50th anniversary celebration. Take a look.
This town in Texas, there are many historic buildings and sights to see, from the historic Fredonia Hotel to the monumental statues. History runs through the streets of Nacogdoches. One place in Nacogdoches that is preparing for a celebration that will make history is the Nacogdoches First United Methodist Church, as they prepare for their sanctuary's 50th anniversary celebration.
It's hard to believe that this building is 50 years old, because I was at the opening of it 50 years ago. I was 20 years old. I was still living at home. I was attending Stephen F. Austin. I remember coming into the new sanctuary and how contemporary it was and modern it was. And I do remember, I did go to the last service in the old church.
Although the church itself was built in 1910, it wasn't until 50 years later, in 1969, that they were putting the finishing touches on the new and improved sanctuary. For 50 years, the sanctuary has been a place of worship and fellowship, but it has also been a place where memories have and continue to be made. Directly outside of the 1969 sanctuary is the church's bell tower, where the windows in the space were the principal windows in the 1910 church. They were installed here when the present sanctuary was built in 1969, giving the area a designated place as the historical First United Methodist Church bell tower.
Hi, I'm Jeff McDonald. I'm one of the pastors here at First United Methodist Church in Nacogdoches, Texas, and we are excited about the 50th anniversary of our sanctuary on April the 7th. The sanctuary opened on Easter Sunday in 1969. It was a great celebration that day, and we're looking forward to another great celebration. I was thinking about worship in our sanctuary, And the things that have happened in there, the babies that have been baptized, the weddings that have happened, kids who have been confirmed, the funerals that have happened in there, and surrounded by all those wonderful memories of worship. John Wesley says that worship is one of our means of grace, and when we gather together as a family of God and worship together, it strengthens who we are as God's people. We go out into the world and all kinds of things happen during the week, and we come back together with our church family on Sunday mornings, and we're in the sanctuary together, and we sing those songs and pray those prayers and hear God's words, and it's what strengthens us to be out there in the world and do the work that God has called us to do. So I hope you'll join us on April the 7th as we celebrate 50 years in this sanctuary and our church doing over 180 years of ministry here in this community.
Joining me in the studio is Mary Frances Bradford, a member and the lay leader of First United Methodist Church. Thank you for joining us, Ms. Bradford. It's a pleasure to have you in today.
It's welcome. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you go ahead and tell our audience just kind of your role in the church as the lay leader and your experience so far?
Well, the lady is just a member of the congregation who is responsible for working directly with the pastors to carry out some of the missions of the church, as well as to talk to the congregation and then convey information back to the pastors. So it's we just facilitate working with both the congregation and the pastors.
And so from that roles perspective, with the 50th anniversary coming up, the community obviously is really excited about it. How excited are you to celebrate coming this far with the sanctuary?
Oh, absolutely. It is very exciting. It's very exciting to hear all the stories that we've been, members that were there at the time, and some of the things that they've been talking about, and the mementos that they've brought back to the church that they've shared with us.
Now, we talked about the sanctuary. It's got a lot of memorabilia with it. We talked about the bell tower, and seeing in that package those stained glass windows, they're absolutely gorgeous.
They are.
And some of those are taken from the old church, correct?
That's correct. They saved those from the 1910 church, as well as some of the bricks from that church, and they used those to commemorate that church, as well as to preserve that history.
And you came to United Methodist Church a while back, even before the sanctuary was built. So
yes.
From your perspective, a lot of different things have happened in that sanctuary. Weddings, services, and you even said it's a place where you grew up.
Absolutely. I joined in 1964, so I went through junior high and high school and college there, and then got married there, and then moved away, and I came back in 1994, and so it was a place where I grew up, and everybody hung out there, and we had a great time. And then later in life, the church is there to be a different role, and so it serves all ages.
Right, and just looking at the sanctuary, I can see why so many want to get married there. It's
beautiful.
It's very beautiful. It absolutely is. And at the end of the day, this is just brick, it's just mortar, it's just glass. Where do you want to see this sanctuary take the community in the next 50 years?
Well, I think the church is such a huge part of our community. It's a part of our individual spiritual lives as well as the congregation, but it's a huge part of our community because that's what connects us with everybody.
Right, and outside of the church community, what would you say that this sanctuary means to the Nacogdoches community as a whole?
Well, every day I come into town and I see the steeple when I drive into town on the west side, and that tells me that this is a community of faith, and I know that the people here care about each other, and they care about the community and the world at large.
Right, and this celebration is happening April 7th. You guys are doing your services a little bit different. How's this celebration going to happen for you guys?
Well, typically we have two services, one at 8:30 and one at 11, and then we have Sunday school in between. Because this is going to be such a big celebration, we're going to have one service. It's going to be at 10 o'clock, and it will be the original 1969 celebration or dedication. They had the bishop come and talk. So we're going to have our current bishop, Bishop Jones, come back, and he's going to do a ceremony at the service. And so it's going to be lots of meaning to the service. And then we will have a very nice luncheon served afterwards. So it's going to be a day of celebration.
Well, it sounds like a great opportunity for you guys
It
to be able to
is.
celebrate. It's come a long way. 50
It has,
years
absolutely.
for just this sanctuary and the church as a whole so much longer
Oh, yes.
than just that. We appreciate you coming in, Ms.
Oh,
Bradford.
you're most
It was
welcome.
an absolute pleasure. To find out more about the 50th anniversary or other events going on at the church, you can follow First United Methodist on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. That is at FUMCNAC. When we come back, grab your favorite cup of coffee and hold on tight because we are taking a closer look at how local coffee shops roast their coffee beans, so stay tuned. Welcome back to Jack Talk. We're excited to be able to take you guys on an inside look at how coffee is roasted. We'll be going inside 2 local businesses. Check it out.
Coffee, the caffeinated beverage that can help fuel a night of studying or a day in the workforce, has been around for about 500 years and comes in many different blends and varieties. But for a bean that can only grow between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn, there's an interesting bit of work that goes into perfecting it into its more commonly known form as a beverage. We got the chance to look at 2 local coffee roasters here in Nacogdoches to learn more about what all goes into the art of coffee brewing. Starting with Camino Real Coffee, a family-owned and operated business here in Nacogdoches, where husband and wife Brent and Sarah have the roasting process down to a science. From the farms and the distributors they've befriended over the years, they start with the imported beans and begin their process from there. With quality-tested beans, they begin measuring out and crafting each specific blend. Their main roaster begins its heating process as the valves, switches, and other buttons are selected to get everything just right for the desired flavor. The roaster is covered in various monitors connected to a computer system where they can measure and mark each step of the way, and these sensors begin to liven up as they add the batches of beans in from the top. The roasting chamber works similar to a space heater as it evenly distributes the heat across the beans, darkening them and accenting the intended flavors. As the roasting process continues, you begin to see a difference from the original bean that was placed in the roaster as the darker colors begin to emerge. From there, the beans begin to make a snap, crackle, and pop sound that's similar to the sound of milk being poured into a bowl of Rice Krispies. In this phase, the sounds from the beans let the brewer know that the process has almost reached its final stage. Once the beans are at the proper temperature, they are then released into the bottom part of the roaster where they are spread and rotated. During this phase, the beans have reached the end of their cooking period and are now ready to cool. From there, the beans are ready to be packaged and distributed to the buyers and merchants and to their coffee shop, Java Jacks, located right here in Nacogdoches. With almost 22 years of practice under their belt, Brent spoke with us about the various qualities and taste for judging coffee. There's a 3-year certification that comes with passing a variety of judgment tests to ensure experience and expertise when it comes to articulating the coffee. It helps them communicate coffee and craft a language for the artisans on how they can describe and explain a coffee, whether it's the desired taste from the bean or to the roasting process. We watched as they sampled some of their brews, testing for quality control and consistency, taking notes and referencing how different steps along the way affected this blend's particular taste.
Hi, Nine Flags Coffee Roasters. We roast coffee every Saturday here. We want to make sure that it's fresh. That's why we do it weekly, to make sure that everything we do is fresh and is of the highest consistency and the highest quality.
We also got to meet with Shane of Nine Flags Coffee here in Nacogdoches. He's spent 25 years in the hospitality industry, but he has almost a year experience in the coffee industry. He roasts the coffee for Nine Flags in a handmade roaster that immediately catches the eye. The igloo-type dome roaster located behind his establishment is where you can find Shane and his partner on a Saturday morning completing their roast. Roasting 10 pounds of beans at a time, they replenish the stock that's disappeared over the past week and prepare for future customers. They begin their process by heating up the roaster to the ideal temperature by adding logs and stoking the fire. When the temperature is just right, they'll begin to set up the rotating attachment that holds the beans over the flame. Once the attachments are ready and the beans are in the rotator, they send it off to the flames and attach the rotating motor belt to the contraption. The coffee beans will spend a few minutes in the roaster as they start their journey. With meticulous logs and a thermometer ready, every minute they check the temperature to ensure the best quality coffee bean they can produce. After the required amount of time for the roast has passed, they check the beans to make sure they're ready. If the beans are ready, they're released into the copper hopper and then taken to the cooling area to end the cooking process. Process has finalized before they are ready for the final step. After the beans have cooled, they check for quality by removing any beans that aren't ideal for the roast, and then they proceed to store the beans in the shop.
Now we're importing from 10 different countries. We have African coffees, Central American coffees, and one Indonesian, the Papua New Guinea. We import directly from 10 different farmers. All of our coffee is mountainous grown, shaded coffee, so it's all gourmet bean. We ensure that we import nothing but the finest coffees we can find directly from the farmers. And we try to get you the best cup of coffee that we can. Our quality assurance is top notch. We think we do a pretty good cup of coffee.
After seeing that, I'm definitely going to need some coffee, and my crew went and grabbed me some. I think the whole crew wants some. Jamie wants some. We got some great coffee in this studio. Appreciate you joining us. Stay tuned for next week's episode of Jack Talk for more exciting news and entertainment here in the SFA and Nacogdoches community. For SFATV's Jack Talk, I'm Luke Hamilton.